Hello everybody, thank you for coming again tonight. My name is Christina, and tonight I'm going to be talking about something that God values, which is family and marriage. Before we talk about the good side, we're going to talk about the not so good side, and that would be divorce. So I'm sure most of you know the statistic that about 50% of all marriages end in divorce. And then if that happens and you get remarried a second time, it goes down to about 43%. You all believe that? Yeah. You do? Well, you would be wrong. It actually goes up. Your second marriage, the divorce rate goes up to about 64, and if you get married a third time, it goes up to about 73%, which sounds counter to what you would believe, because you would think that you'd get it right now and do it better this time, but most people don't take the time to get to know themselves and figure out what went wrong and what they need to do better and change in themselves for the next time. And that would be one of the reasons that there are a lot of divorces. Now, I myself have been married and divorced, and when people ask me about my marriage and divorce, my answer that I like to give is that I was young and dumb, and I laugh it off. But there is a lot of truth in that, because I was very young when I married, and because I was so young, I didn't know myself fully, and I definitely didn't know the person that I was about to marry. So that ended in divorce as well. And you'll see later on in my talk that that is one of the common reasons for divorce, people getting married too young. But before we get to that point, I want to focus on the fact that people, whether they do it because of ignorance, as was my case because I didn't know, or because of willful disobedience to what God chooses for us to have, they end up in relationships that don't work for them, and the ultimate result of those is that they lead to divorce. So as I was online researching for this, I looked at a bunch of surveys, and a lot of the surveys were on what men and women look for in a mate. And a lot of the answers across the board were that they're cute, and the hair, and the clothes, and the cars, and the money, and most of the things that I read were superficial items. I didn't see in any survey at all where it talked about someone's faith or the character of the person. And then I looked at other surveys that gave the reasons for a divorce, and across the board, they were pretty much not compatible, no communication, infidelity, money, married too young, as was my case, unprepared for marriage, or they had unrealistic expectations for marriage. Glenn T. Stanton, who's an author and speaker and director for the Family Formation Studies, wrote in The Christian Divorce Myth in 2011 that 60% of non-Christian marriages end in divorce. Whereas in Christian marriages, and by Christian he doesn't mean just everybody that's walking in the doors of the church, he means people that are serious about their faith, and together they're committed to building their faith and following the Bible and following the teachings of God. And in those cases, with Christian marriages, the divorce rate was 38%, which is a big difference from the 60% that you find in non-Christians. So now that we know what some of the causes are, I want to go over some of the results and what happens to children in the cases of divorce. And the Congressional Research Service in February 2013 pointed out that 1 in 3 children in the United States live in a home without their biological father. That is 30% of the kids in this country do not live with their biological father. And the 44% of the kids that live with just their moms live at or below the poverty level in this country. So what are some of the results of this happening? You have 63% of youth suicides, 85% of children with behavior disorders, 71% of high school dropouts, 90% of homeless and runaway children, 80% of rapists with anger problems, and the list goes on and on and on. And what they all have in common is that they are all from fatherless homes. None of these children in these statistics lived with their biological fathers. So this seems like really extreme results and consequences, and you want to know why this is. And there are a lot of reasons, but the simple answer to this is that children in single-parent homes do not receive the same level of love and attention and discipline and guidance as children in a two-parent home. And that's because the one parent that has to raise them by themselves is so stressed with having to work and make money and feed them and find a home that the amount of time they put into caregiving is diminished. And we had a study in 1994 by Gable, Cernick, and Belsky on the influences on children's development. And what they found was that the father's most important influence on his child is actually indirectly. By his supporting the mother emotionally, mentally, and financially, it made her more secure and happy in her relationship, and that led to her being a better mother. So there is a way that we can reduce these problems, and we can change the way that we react when we have issues in our relationships, because everyone is going to have issues in their relationships from time to time. But if you have both people in the marriage that have strong faith and strong beliefs and a commitment to God and to each other and to their relationship, and they want to follow the guidelines that we are given, then their chances of having a fulfilling marriage and relationship increases greatly. So we have guidelines from God that teach us not only about relationships, but about how to develop our own character as we're growing up. And this book gives you step-by-step, simple, practical, easy instructions for developing yourself, for learning how to have good judgment, and for picking a partner to spend your life with. There is plenty of good, biblically based, practical advice for relationships in the Bible. It tells us that we should be a counsel for one another. So your partner should be able to come to you with problems and you can help them and talk to them about it. You should be a helper for one another. It also says you should submit to one another. And while some ladies might have an issue with that word, it doesn't mean what you think. It means that you put your partner's needs ahead of your own. You should do it and your spouse should do it. And doing that helps you both to have a better relationship. So if you study what's in here together and you pray together and you surround yourselves with people that are like-minded and that will support and help you in your relationship, you'll find that you have a better opportunity for a lasting, loving marriage or relationship. So to summarize everything tonight, what you need to do is take the time to develop yourself, to mature, to experience life, and once you reach the age of maturity that you have good judgment, take the time to get to know the other person before you get into a deep relationship with them. And together, you can have a real commitment to God, a real commitment to each other, and make a lasting relationship. So, before I go tonight, if you've noticed this flashing light on the screen here, you're probably wondering what that is. And this light that you're about to see again represents the fact that every 13 seconds in the United States, someone gets divorced. So I just wanted you to get an idea with how quickly you're going to see this light come up. That's another divorce happening. So the book is there, the guidelines are there, it's easy to follow. Commit to it, commit to each other, and don't let this represent you and you end up getting divorced. Thank you.
Yeah.